Hello everyone. Welcome to our another episode of Madam Vittapennangal Samsarikate. That is, let the women who descended speak now. That's a very hard translation of the title. So today we have Susanna from Atheist Republic, the CEO and President of Atheist Republic, uh, with us today. And along with her, Armin Nawabi is also accompanying us on the live chat here, so people can interact with him as well. So, welcome, Susanna, to our show.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. I've been waiting and dying to connect with you for a really long time. So I'm glad it's finally happening.
Yeah, so, but there's a problem, big problem today. That is, um, because you cannot interview me today, because here you will be forced to speak about certain things like being a woman. We always believe that uh, there's a huge a vacuum for the females all over the world, that if they come out of this religion and if they come up and speak about all these things, that will make a huge impact in our society than uh, all of the men coming out and speaking about all these things. So that's the biggest reason, or the major reason why I wanted this show on my channel, and you are here today for with us. And just beginning to know from you that what is your journey, how you were brought up, and what's your journey outside this belief system that you were in, and how you came out of all these things as an atheist, and now you are leading a biggest organization in the world. So I would like to hear from you all about uh, all these things, and so the mic is yours now.
Oh, why, thank you. Well, my journey is, I don't know. Parts of it are interesting and parts of it I feel like are quite normal. So I grew up in America, in Washington State. I've lived on the West Coast for my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in a Catholic family.
Okay.
And I went to Catholic schools for basically all of my education. And in my family was very conservative compared to the other families I grew up around and my city in general. Seattle is a very, very liberal city.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just always very different. I was always like the black sheep. I
Okay.
would kind of always be going off and doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the ways that I like to express myself and just be weird, I was a weird little girl. It wasn't seen as very appropriate or respectful, or I was horrible at being a good Catholic girl, basically.
Okay.
And things really started to change for me when I was the age of 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why might sound kind of silly to some people, but when you're a child, even these little things can be a big deal to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 12 years old, my parents decided that they were going to take me out of the Catholic school I had been in my entire life with kids I had known since the age of 4 or younger.
Mm-hmm.
And instead put me in a Catholic all girls school, in a different city.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't want to do this. And I felt so betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
I had no say whatsoever in this decision.
Okay.
And having this experience of my parents making this decision for me that I felt violated my own choice so much,
Mm-hmm.
made me question them and question what they choose for me and stuff.
Okay.
And then that actually kind of ballooned out, and it made me question God and religion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, if I feel inside that this decision that they made for me was so wrong, what if there are other things that they decided that were wrong too? And so out of all the things in my life, for some reason, that's what got the ball rolling. And actually, I think the decision to go to an all-girls school was really good. Like, I'm actually glad I went to that school after all. But at the time, that's not how I felt. And then when I reached the age of 14, that's when I realized that I was bisexual, that I liked girls. And so you very quickly figure out as a Catholic that that is not okay. In fact, that is a very major way that is not okay. And then when I reached the age of 16, because of a variety of things in my life, like it's not just this, there were many things going on, but basically I attempted suicide. And like liking the same sex and suicide are like two of the few things in the Bible like called abominations, right? Because of how serious they are.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was at this place where cognitively, to thrive instead of just survive, like I had to leave religion just to kind of grow and be okay with myself, right? So really, I say that in this first stage of my life, like I left religion for emotional reasons, really.
Okay.
And a lot of people try to invalidate that, say, oh my God, you're not thinking about this question rationally and logically, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's okay. A lot of people have to leave religion for emotional reasons because it is so painful for them. And I think that's perfectly valid. So then I had this period of my life where like I've left religion, but now when I look back on it, I think that I was still treating myself as a bad person for not following God's rules. Even though I didn't like God's rules, I didn't respect them, those didn't represent my values. Like kind of, just in the way that you're raised and how you're taught about what it means to be good. Like I just treated myself like I was a bad kid, like I was a bad person. And I mean, I still struggle with that, but it's a lot better. But my early 20s were characterized just by like a lot of poor self-talk, a lot of like bad beliefs about myself and treating myself badly because I thought I deserved it, And then I reached the age of like 23, 24, and there was a lot of stuff going on in my life. Like I was a part of Antifa.
Oh.
So there was a lot of stuff going on.
Okay.
And in this process of like, I was just really, really mentally in a bad place. And I was trying to learn how to get myself out of that place. And part of this had to do with accepting my own sexuality. And I think of it, it's best explained like this. Like intellectually, you can know something is true. You can believe something. Like, so I'm a very sex positive person intellectually. Like the things, what I think other people should feel about their own pleasure and stuff like that. But then mentally, what I tell myself is completely different, right? So intellectually, this is what I believe, but then emotionally, I still punish myself for it. And very irrationally. And so I was going through this process of basically trying to understand indoctrination by studying cult psychology.
Okay.
And because I wanted to try to like understand how I could still have such a strong emotional experience like this, even though intellectually I'd moved past that for a long time. And I came to a place where basically through studying cults and how cults work, I started to teach myself like more structured critical thinking skills.
Okay.
And one of the things that they talk about when you're learning critical thinking skills is basically like go watch debates from one person from a group and a person who's a former member of that group, like an ex whatever. And because of that, basically that's how I discovered the ex-Muslim movement.
Oh, really?
And because I discovered the ex-Muslim movement, that actually changed my mind about like everything. And so I owe so much of who I am today and so much of my activism, basically all of my activism, to ex-Muslims.
So I have a
And
question here.
that's basically how I became the president of Atheist
So,
Republic
yeah.
eventually.
So I have to intervene here because you were from a Christian family and you were struggling to come out of that, looking for fellow ex-Christians. And is it like that you were not able to find an ex-Christian movement, and instead of that, you were able to find an ex-Muslim movement, and that gave you more
No.
confidence?
So in the United States, like we have like all of our atheists, not all, but the vast majority of our atheists are ex-Christians. You know, like the Atheist Experience from the atheist community of Austin, like they're huge. They have their big programs, and that's kind of how that was like my first layer of getting into this.
Okay.
But I'm a very curious person, and I'm also like very left-leaning, like multiculturalism is something that's very important to me, and I'm also just a deeply curious person.
Left-leaning
And so
or liberal?
I was like, okay, I kind of know the whole ex-Christian thing.
Okay. Left-leaning or liberal?
Yeah, like I'm a liberal. I consider that left-leaning in most cases.
Okay, because in India, when you say that you are left, that means you are communist. So that's a dangerous area.
No. I am not a communist. Hard no. Let me be clear.
So our listeners, please correct yourself. If ever you believe you ever thought that she's a communist, she's a liberal, not the kind of left that we talk about in our place. Okay, please continue.
Okay, yes, that's a good correction because it is different. Good catch.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? So basically I was watching a lot of ex-Christian content, but it was like I kind of already was like familiar with all this. I'm used to it, you know? And I was just so curious about other cultures and other experiences.
Okay.
And so I wanted to see what like ex-Muslims had to say. I had no idea. I didn't really know that much about Islam, and what I learned like shocked me. And that's actually how I found Atheist Republic, was because like Atheist Republic we have the largest community in the world, so we're inherently like the most diverse. We have like ex-Hindus, ex-Sikhs, like, you know, everyone. And that's why I got attracted to Atheist Republic, because there was so much more that was being represented than just the ex-Christians who dominate everything in North America. And yeah, so how I actually ended up the CEO was a little bit different, but that's kind of the broader story.
Okay. So I want to know more about this Atheist Republic, but just before that, what I have seen is that the guilt complex, you might be knowing that, the guilt. Okay, so
I'm very familiar.
Yeah, so that's the most talked about, or the most suffering inducing element in Christianity that I have known, even more than in Islam. That's what drives a Christian throughout his life as a Christian. So how do you come out of that guilt complex?
Honestly, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I think
are you still suffering from that?
Oh yeah, I mean every day, but it's not as bad as it used to be. You know, like I've grown a lot, but it's particularly bad for ex-Catholics. Like in comparison to other Christians I know, like the Catholics are, it's just on a different level. I don't know why. So I think it's because I attribute it to the teaching of original sin. Like Muslims, they don't have original sin. When I learned that, my mind was blown. I was like, what? You guys don't have this? And I'm jealous. I think it's such a harmful teaching, like to teach children that you didn't do anything wrong, right? Like you personally in this lifetime that you ever remember, you did not do anything wrong, but because you were born a human, like you have been tainted in the eyes of God. And basically you will only ever be told you're worthy enough if you are constantly proclaiming the salvation of Jesus Christ. So that is inherently teaching people conditional love. Like the love that you receive from your creator this father figure that is supposed to protect you from everything, like, is inherently conditional and always will be, and you will always have this mark against you, and you are basically always having to prove yourself that you are worthy of his salvation. But they say, oh, God is love, his love is unconditional, all that stuff. It's like, no, it's very clear. It's through the salvation of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's where I think it comes from.
Okay. So when do you think that you will be completely out of this guilt complex? Because I'm very curious about that. That's why I'm keep on asking that.
I don't know. I think honestly, it'll probably take me at least another 10 years.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, seriously.
Okay.
I think I don't know if I'll ever come out of it completely, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, then I have a very quick solution for that. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Okay, so the best solution to come out of this guilt complex is to embrace Islam first, and then you become an ex-Muslim. Because in Islam, you know that Islam is something that is above Christianity. That's how we are taught. Like that Muhammad is the final prophet. So Isa or the Jesus comes second, just before Muhammad, and after that Muhammad comes and he completes the religion. That's how we are taught. So in that case, there's no original sin. That concept is not there. But and apart from that, as you said, people are born as good person. Everyone in this world. That's how Islam teaches. Okay, so only after that we are getting tainted with the sin and all other things, and we even become other members of other religion. That's how we are getting converted. So that's the core belief in Islam. So in that sense, if you could embrace Islam, you'll be free of this guilt complex, and after that, the next day, you can dekalima yourself. And the only problem is you should make sure that you won't be deep-throated. Okay, because there's a chance for that. The murtad has to be killed. The apostate has to be killed. That's the
there are conditions.
Yeah, there are conditions apply. But the problem is you'll get a perfect cure for this guilt complex. Okay, you can even think of
I think you might have a point. If you would be my witness as I proclaim the Shahada, let's do it. No, I'm kidding.
And do you want me to tell you the Shahada? I can give it.
No, I know it. It's like, well, most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please tell it if you know.
Well, I only remember the first part.
Ashhadu.
La ilaha illallah.
Ashhadu.
No, ashhadu anna. Ashhadu anna. La ilaha illallah. Something like that.
Yeah, it's
Muhammadur
Rasulullah.
I always want to say, yeah. I've learned Spanish, so I start throwing Spanish in there when I say it for some reason.
Okay. So if you want the best expert in giving out Shahada, we can call in Zakir Naik for that. He's the best in that. He can,
oh my gosh.
He can clearly give.
How funny would that be?
Okay, so yeah, so that was your history part. How you were brought up and how you came out of this, and how you are still struggling to come out of this. And I wish you a very speedy recovery from this biggest problem. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now you were mentioning about this Atheist Republic and its activities. Could you please elaborate a few things about that and how your role has helped it?
Yeah, so Atheist Republic is the world's largest international community of atheists. We were formally founded as a nonprofit in Canada in 2012, but it had been a community online long before then.
Okay.
We're also a nonprofit entity in the United States.
Okay.
And our primary objective is to provide community and a voice for atheists. So, especially in countries or communities where it is dangerous to be an open atheist, either because it's criminalized, maybe you could be punished with death, or maybe it's just very stigmatized in your community. We provide places where you can find people online, either international communities, local communities, all over the place, because having a place where you can express yourself freely is so important, and being able to find people who you can be freely express your criticism of religion around, who you can freely, you know, mock things, be silly, and be irreverent,
even
blasphemous.
cartoons of Kali.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Just being able to have a space where you can be more like yourself is so important. It's so important to people's mental health.
Okay.
And it's also important to have these places where you can find people like you, especially if you experience familial rejection. Because like familial rejection is such a strong predictor of people experiencing poor outcomes like mental health disorders, social ostracization, loneliness, suicidality, substance abuse, all this stuff. So we want to provide a space where you can find a community and hopefully find some people that could maybe be your new godless family.
And I think, and I think that's helping a lot of people.
Yeah, it's super important.
Yeah.
We also, so that's like one of our main forms of our programming. We also have like content that we create, memes, art, our news shows, or our YouTube channel. So that's what I do every week. Atheist Republic on YouTube. We have like a news show where we talk about secular religious news items every week and help kind of keep people educated and engaged in these ideas, and show that like godlessness is global. It's not just like a white person thing, which is the dumbest thing that people try to say in North America. It's like, it's insane. Or that like really that this fight against religious tyranny is everywhere, and that we can come together and be connected about it. And it's important to be informed about how people are struggling against this around the world. It's also how we promote the values that we do like. You know, we are a community that is primarily based around our lack of belief in something, right? But we also actually do have values that we actually do affirm, like enlightenment values, like protecting free expression, like fighting for individual liberties, for promoting pluralism and the protection of minorities, stuff like this. This is what I get very nerdy about. And one of the things I love the most and that I think is special about us is that we try to provide a lot of these content in different languages besides English. That's one thing I really like about your work, because so much of what you can find on the internet is English focused, but it's so helpful for people to be able to express it in their mother tongue, right? So we have our Persian speaking community, which is huge, and it's actually becoming like very influential in the Persian scene, which I'm really proud of.
Great.
We have our Arabic channel.
Really?
And we also have a channel that focuses on Africa. So it's Atheist Republic Cape Town, and they do Afrikaans and Lesotho and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I really am excited about, is like expanding it and creating a platform where we can then hand it to other atheists in our community and say, what do you want to say? Like, you can take the reins and show us what you want to say for your community. It makes me really excited.
So there's something that makes you more excited. That is, before that, I wanted to congratulate the person behind all those creatives, which is being showcased in your website. That is the blasphemous art, I think. I have subscribed to that art. Is it drawn by Armin?
No, so we hire different artists to do the drawing for us, but it's me and Armin that come up with the ideas.
That's fantastic, and a big applause for that, Armin and our Susanna for that, because that's highly blasphemous. I don't find any other means to say that, because that's highly influential or making big impacts, like especially the kind of combos that you select for Muhammad and Rama. I can relate that. So but
it was so funny. I was telling Armin the other day that it's gotten to a place where like I forget that it's blasphemous to depict the prophet at all, because
Yeah.
I'm so used to showing him like having sex. My level is so high that I forget that just the baseline is shocking to
Yeah.
people.
Anyway,
But we have a lot of fun with it.
yeah, but there's an issue with this sexy Kali that landed you in hot waters in India, and for that you are facing some kind of ban in travel or something like that. Could you please give some light on that? Sexy Kali.
Yeah, so it all started literally almost exactly 2 years ago, because today is September 2nd. It started on September 3rd, 2020.
Okay.
So basically, Armin, our founder, for those who don't know, Armin Navabi, he had been doing a campaign about desecrating the Quran, because that's something that he promotes as protected free speech or free expression.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was, because he was publicly desecrating the Quran, we discovered that we were attracting a Hindutva audience.
Okay.
And this is not representative of our values.
True.
And so our style is, we're like, well, we need to show these people that don't represent our values that we will also, we're equal opportunity offenders. Okay. Like this, we will go after you too, because we're consistent about our expression of free expression.
Okay.
And so he tweeted a photo. It was like a drawing of the, Kali Ma, but kind of as a pinup girl. It was a beautiful photo.
Yeah, very beautiful.
And
sexy.
The caption, I still remember it. The caption was, why did no one tell me that Hinduism had such sexy goddesses? Like, why would anyone pick any other religion?
Okay.
First of all, hilarious. Second of all, I thought this was quite celebratory. We're like, yes, beautiful goddesses. We love it. We're promoting it. Like, but apparently this is like not okay. So then we experienced a backlash that, like, I am friends with many ex-Muslim or critical activists who have been doing this work for 15, 20 years. They said the level of abuse and vitriol that we experienced because of Sexy Kali is unlike anything they have ever seen from Muslims.
Okay.
And 2 years later, they are still coming after us.
Okay. Still there.
And oh yeah.
Okay.
So this led to, like, Armin has so many legal complaints against him. I lost track. Like VHP spokespersons coming after him.
Okay.
Like, I have FIRs filed against me now. I felt very proud of myself. We got Atheist Republic is now banned on Facebook to users in India. So we lost over 300,000 of our members. Our website got banned in India on a few different internet service providers. What else happened? People have gone after our tweets on Twitter, and we think that this is why our Twitter got banned, basically, is because of tweets with Sexy Kali. It was actually a tweet promoting one of my speeches. Then we've just had so many legal complaints, bans all over the place. And then this is what actually started our blasphemous art project that you were talking about. You're like, oh, all this blasphemous art, blah, blah, blah. So because of this, like, all of this vitriol and abuse that we were facing is with the intention for us to get scared and stop, right?
Okay.
We're like, no, we're not going to stop. We're not going to allow you to terrorize us into censoring ourselves. So that's actually what started the Blasphemous Art Project. We're like, no, we're going to double down and we're going to do more. Because there are two options.
Okay.
Either you get desensitized to it, you realize that this is nothing to really get that upset over, and you leave us alone, or you can continue to attack us, to continue to terrorize and abuse us. And every time you do that, we are going to highlight it, and we are going to expose to everyone exactly how mentally sick and toxic you are, because more people need to be aware of how vitriolic and abusive and the brain rot that is going on in this Hindutva fascist mindset. And so, yeah, we've kept it up all this time.
Okay, so you are still holding on to that, and I think that has given a very fitting answer to this Hindutva activist in our countries as well. That is, criticizing Islam is not just done for as a hobby or something that we do to make some YouTube income. It is it has a substance in it, and when we talk about Hindutva or this right-wing politics, also we are able to see the same kind of intolerance and all such fascist elements in their activities as well. So, and I think you have succeeded pretty well in exposing them. Okay, so another big applause for your team, Susanna and Armin and all other people in Atheist Republic. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and I wonder, definitely after
Yeah,
this.
I actually,
Yeah.
I think it's really important because in the quote unquote West, I hate that term, the West, it's like meaningless. So I'll say in North America. In North America, like Hinduism is super whitewashed. People think of like the hippies from the 60s and 70s, and they think of like chakras, and they think of like meditation and being at peace with yourself and all this stuff. But so what we went through actually devastated, like decades of whitewashing, decades of marketing. When people saw the hate that was underneath, like the sheer levels of bigotry, I'm not even kidding. I have never in my life seen anything like it.
Okay.
To this day, the stuff that comes out of like Hindutva, I have never seen the levels of bigotry that they so casually throw out there. It breaks my brain. And
yeah, and you
so
have the right
that's
to
what I
speak
think
about
is really important. It needs to be exposed for what it is. Like
Definitely.
what you were saying about, like, people talk about Islamism, right? Like political Islam. Well, I think Islam is inherently political, but you know, Islamism is like its own actual project to put Islam in the government. I think of it as Hindutva, as just political Hinduism. And more people need to start thinking about it this way.
Yeah. So when you talk about this political Islam and this political Hinduism, when we criticize Islam or when we try to speak anything about Islam, the biggest allegation that we are facing here is that you are helping this right wing or this Hindutva in our country. So that means we are helping out the right wing here. So who exactly is the right wing in your place where you will be helping out while criticizing Islam or while criticizing Christianity?
Yeah. So so in my case, I would not be helping out the right wing by criticizing Christianity, because especially nowadays there's such a groundswell of the Christian nationalist movement in the right wing in America, right?
Okay.
So they would be against me for my criticism of Christianity. However, they do align, or they do have an interest in criticism of Islam, right? But their interest in criticizing Islam is more towards pointing the finger and say, this is why we can't have Muslims in our country, that kind of thing. It's not actually unpacking like what is wrong about this ideology. Why is it like a far right fascist ideology? Like, what are the values that are not representative or do not promote human prosperity? Like those kinds of things. And so I think the accusation that ex-Muslims get in India is very unfair, although it's very similar to what ex-Muslims face in North America. They say, oh, look, you are basically giving the right wing reasons to hate Muslims. And you're like, no, like I come from this community, I come from this background, I still have a Muslim name, so people would still stereotype me that way, right? Like, but you're just talking about the ideas. And I think that I understand, especially in India, ex-Muslims can be taken as such a convenient tool to just throw back in the face of other people. But you have to like stand very strong and say like, no, that's not representative of who we are and our values. And there's actually many cases that I've read of like Bajrang Dal going to go attack people who actually left Islam to go marry Hindu women. They're like, they straight up converted to Hinduism. So that's a big deal. Okay. To apostatize not only, but to apostatize, but to Hinduism, like that's a big deal. But but because this person went to go marry like a Hindu woman, they still went and burned down his house, you know, because they literally have said, like, you have the Muslim blood, you know, because that's how bigoted they are.
Okay.
So it's within everyone's interest to just make it about the ideologies and not about the people, you know?
So in your place, as you are pointing it out, it's like the bigotry against Muslims is being increasing, or that is being seen as a problem, just like the kind of right-wing politics that we see here in our place. So could you, are you equating both? Are you seeing it?
Yeah, there's similarities. Definitely, there's similarities. I mean, the levels of anti-Muslim bigotry in the United States pales in comparison to what's going on in India, right? But some of the motivations about how to use ex-Muslims politically are the same.
Okay, so I think that's a quite courageous, what do you say, explanation that you have seen, you have given, and I think that has to be addressed. Like that has to be brought out and should be discussed more and more, instead of just saying that we should keep silent about this criticizing Islam, just because we see Islamophobia as a problem. So we need to delineate between Islamophobia and Muslimophobia, right? Do you think that?
Exactly.
Okay. So
Exactly.
yeah. So moving on to our some other aspects, like we were talking about this coming out of the belief and from Catholics' belief system, right? So after becoming an atheist, how did your family react to you? Like, how are they reacting to you as a person?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. So, in my family, like, I kind of I've observed this in a lot of other like Catholic families. Like, there's just kind of like this silence. Like, we all know, but we're like not going to talk about it so we can all just get along, like that kind of thing. So, by the time for people who don't know, in Catholicism you have many different sacraments. So they're like rites of passage that you go through in the church. You get baptized, you have your first confession, you have your first Eucharist, like then you do your confirmation, you get married, like these kinds of things. So I did, you know, all the standard ones when you're young, and then by the time you reach like your late teenage years, that's when you're supposed to do your confirmation. And so by the time I got old enough, like I should have been doing my confirmation, but it was just understood within my family that I was not with the program. Like, this is not what Susanna likes. She's gonna, if we make her do this, she's gonna go kicking and screaming. So we're just not gonna pursue this. So it was never really much of an explicit conversation I had with my family until like very recently, actually. It was just pretty obvious that I was not religious, that I didn't like the religious rules that I was taught. I didn't like the religious morality, and I was clearly not abiding by it. Then basically when I started my activism is when I started just like straight up telling my family what the deal is. So I had this interview with the Secular Jihadist podcast, which is actually like my first ever public appearance where I talk about my experience in Antifa. And in that interview, like I talk about being an atheist, I talk about being bisexual and all this stuff. And I wanted to show like my grandparents this interview because I thought they'd be interested in what I had to say. But before I sent them the interview, I had to be like, so by the way, I'm going to talk about some things in the interview. Like, I want to tell you so you don't listen to it and you're shocked. Yeah, so I'm an atheist and yeah, I'm bisexual, blah, blah, blah. I told them on Easter Sunday.
The best day to break it out.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's so ironic. And they were actually like, my grandparents were actually incredibly accepting at the time. And it was this thing that I had been holding on to for years, like literally a decade, believing that I could never be truthful to them because it was just going to like damage our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And actually it wasn't that bad at all. It was actually pretty good. But I think as basically it's because of my activism that I have had to be more open about these things and more frank.
Okay.
And as I've gotten further into it, that's when there's like been more pushback.
Okay.
Like I know because when I go home and I'm around my family, like I hear conversations of them talking about me, talking about how they wish I was still religious, or that basically they think once I reach the age of 40, all of a sudden I'll change and I'll be religious again and I'll understand. So I think they kind of think that this is like a phase, or I just don't understand things well enough. So in general, like we don't talk about it that much. Like when they're saying prayers at meals, like I join because it's easy. And most of the time it's not super shoved down my throat, but sometimes things still make me uncomfortable. But I know that it's them trying to love me. So I don't take it that personally, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So do you think that these kind of experiences that you're facing as an atheist from a Christian family is something very unique to your own family, or is it seen in every other Christian family in your place?
It's pretty common. I think
Okay.
it's very common. I mean, I'm very lucky. Some people get full blown rejected, like they can't have conversations, like there's no opportunity to kind of come together over what you do have similarities on. In general, things are like mostly fine, but like every family, sometimes there's uncomfortable stuff, but that's normal. you know in comparison to many of my friends from ex-Muslim communities, I have it like just so easy. They face a level of rejection that is
Okay.
far and above what I go through.
So I just wanted to add a message here to our viewers, okay, especially those viewers from Christian background here, because as you said, when you were criticizing Islam through Atheist Republic, a huge chunk of your followers were from this Hindutva, where they were thinking that they are getting some food for their criticism for Islam. Just like that, when we talk about this ex-Muslim movement or when we criticize Islam here, one of the main followers, the part of these followers in our place is from Christian background, where they will be
Yeah.
taking all these things and they are trying to see that as an opportunity to say that Christianity is something good. It is peace loving. It won't chase down the people who are leaving the religion, and it is always peace, and it just sings these kind of songs which is always on a love note. Okay, so to them that I'm giving a message that if you had ever listened to Susanna here, you can clearly see that how this Christian belief and Christian background is making you arrogant and intolerant towards a person who is leaving this religion. It's absolutely the same with any other religion, especially just like Islam. But as I was also saying, and as Susanna has also said here, that the level of rejection and the level of ostracization is very different in Islamic faith. But still, we can see that kind of rejection and these kind of problems even in Christian belief. The only thing is, since you are a minority in our place, you are not able to take it out, just as Islam or the Muslims, these kind of radical Muslims, are taking it out. So that's not because
Mm.
your religion is pure or religion is love. It is just because you are a minority and uh, you are transformed into an Indian context where you are forced to embrace these kind of secular values, the democratic values. That's the only thing which makes you stand like this today. So don't think that it's because of your religion that you're behaving like that. Your religion is just what Susanna has said to us. So please listen to her more and more. Okay, Susanna. Thanks for
No, I
that.
think that's a very important point.
Yeah, very
Like
important. Yeah.
when your religious group is a minority, like inherently you have to act differently. Like you have to typically
Mm-hmm.
act on a higher standard than that of the majority because you're held up to higher scrutiny. And so the level of behavior is on a different level because it's self-protective. But then we see situations where like a religious community is in the majority, then they can become so tyrannical, like enforcing their values upon everyone else at the expense of everyone's, which I mean, you can see what's happening in the United States right now. It's not great.
Okay. So in a way, this Christianity in United States can be called as the right wing of India, just as we
Definitely.
see the
religious right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a clear indication, and I think that gives a sense to all this problem in a bigger picture. So just before winding up this session with you, which is still going on, and I think this has to be run for at least 1 or 2 hours more to get more information from you, because there are a lot of things coming up.
So much fun.
Yeah. But still, we have to conclude it today. That's the only problem right now we are facing. So, how do you feel as a woman doing all these things, especially coming out of this? And what is the kind of message that you have to our females all around, the women all around? Because they are always hesitant to come out of this. They are always thinking that what the society will think about us, what the people around us will be thinking about this, what our families will be thinking about this. And these are the major hurdles that they are facing, just making them stick on to their beliefs, and they are not coming out. So what is the message that you have to them?
I think that I honestly, I think my message is just for people in general, but as much as you can, emphasize your own individuality. You know, like personally, I think being a woman is one of the least interesting or important things about myself. Like being a woman doesn't really tell you much about what I've been through, or my opinions, or how I go about establishing my conclusions, you know. And I think it's so easy to be stereotyped as a woman of saying, oh, you're a victim, oh, you need to be protected, all this stuff. And just fighting to be seen as an individual, I think, is so important. Especially, I think, so America is one of the most individualistic cultures in the world. I think it actually is the most individualistic culture in the world. And India has a much more collectivistic cultural orientation. And so it might be easier for me to just say these things than for someone actually living in the Indian context, and I'm aware of that. And I think it's important to consider how women are seen as representative of the honor of the collective, right? Like the honor of the community, the honor of the family is between what the woman does between her legs, right? And that is so crippling to oneself, of just being one's image of oneself as an individual, right? Like when you are seen as carrying how your entire family is seen in the eyes of community, just on your own behavior, like that takes away who you are as a person. You are now a representative and a billboard for all these people you just happen to be connected to by blood. And I think that's really unfair. And so within everyone's own way, in whatever way is safest for them, I think just learning to fight to be seen as an individual. Like, no, what my family says is not representative of me. The way that they establish their political opinions, the way that they establish what is true, their beliefs, isn't the way that I do, because I'm different. I'm me. I have a right to be seen as, just an individual that does not necessarily reflect these other people, and at the same token, I am not guilty by association. If they have horrible opinions, but I'm different, I should not be held responsible for them, because I've done the work to view things differently. And that's really how I try to approach my relationships with people in general. I'm just so passionate about individual liberties.
That's more important.
I think that so much of these rights, like women's rights, LGBTQ rights, they all fit within individual liberties. And I would like more people to have the freedom to just be themselves and not be seen as an extension of others.
Definitely. That's pretty clarifying, and that is very useful to all the people, not just women. Okay, and one thing I would like to add to that is that is that becoming liberal is the main goal everyone should be having. But in that process, I'm so much sure that a man will be losing a lot, but at the same time, women will be gaining a lot. That's what I have seen. So when a man becomes liberal, he has to shed a lot of privileges that he will be carrying with him, which was a gift to him, gifted by the religion or the society that into which he was born into. Like if he's a Muslim man, he can beat his wife. Okay, that is a privilege for him because he can make his woman obey him. That's the kind of power a man is carrying inherently from his birth. But when he becomes liberal, he's losing that power. He's losing that privilege, and he has no right to beat his woman or his partner. And that is a kind of loss for a man. So becoming liberal is always a loss for a man, but for a woman, it is a gain in many aspects. Like she's gaining her individuality. That's the main aspect of becoming a liberal. So the future of our existence is totally dependent upon these kind of liberal values, where individuality will be placed at the center stage, and that is what our chief guest today is talking all about. And I think that is.
Hey, well, as a man, when you become the liberal, you earn the privilege of not having to go and wage jihad. So that's cool. That's not something you're losing. You're gaining that. Come on, you need to talk about those things too. It's not all a loss.
Just to add on to that, because if becoming liberal, we are losing out 72 virgins. Don't you know that? We are not even getting that 72 virgins in the heaven. So again, that is a loss. Even if we go for
exactly.
Going for a jihad is something that gives us something. It's not a loss. Going for a jihad is a bounty for us. So becoming liberal is even
I guess because of the martyrdom. You're right.
Is
interesting.
Is even stripping us of the opportunity to get 72 virgins. So even that is a loss. We cannot count it as a gain. Anyway, that was a wonderful time with you. Yeah, so that was a wonderful time.
I know, I had so much fun.
Yeah. So next time I'll be joining with Armin and you on your channel very soon, and this was something pretty useful for our viewers as well. And I think we'll be contemplating on many of the points that you have said here, especially with regards to the kind of position this Christianity is giving out as a religion in the society in your place, which we are not familiar here in our place, where Christianity is a minority here. So that's something pretty useful for us. Like it gave us a very good picture of how this Christianity can be a problem at times like this. Anyway, any other things that you have to add? Anything missed out?
Well, oh my God, I want to talk to you about like so many different things. I want to talk to you about secularism in India. I want to talk to you about the explosion of ex-Muslims in South India in particular. I'm fascinated with South India, by the way. Like if I go to India, like that's where I want to go. I want to go to Kashmir. I want to go to Kerala. I want to go to Tamil Nadu. Like that's where I want to go.
But Kashmir is not South India.
I mean, I could keep talking to you. No, I know it's very different, but it just looks beautiful. The mountains are beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to have a long discussion with you about like the status of India's secularism. Like it's way too long for just 10 minutes.
The secularism in India, it's an oxymoron right now, because
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
because it's
Okay. Wait,
yeah,
one quick question.
yeah.
What do you think about having a uniform civil code?
Definitely, we are for that, because what we always say is that anyone who is against this uniform civil code is against the human rights of a woman. Okay, so if you believe in human rights, and if you believe that even the women deserve that, you have to be standing for this uniform civil code. You cannot stand against that. But what we see here, even from our political leaders, is that they are standing against this uniform civil code, which is really heartbreaking for us, because the left that you spoke about in our
Yeah.
place is against this uniform civil code. So that's the problem. And the people
It's
who are
crazy.
for that,
It's so interesting to me because I don't even see it from the perspective. Oh, sorry.
yeah, please continue.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Oh, I think that the uniform civil code is so important, not even from the perspective of like women's rights or anything, although that is an important part of it. Just
Yeah.
like there needs to be consistency.
Definitely.
There's so much inconsistency in India's construction of secularism. I don't think it can last.
Yeah. Uh, Actually, with regards to the constitution of our country, it is well laid. This secularism is well laid. But when it comes to the practical application of that, the execution of that, it's where at that point where this problem arises, where it is being disregarded. It's not taken
Yeah,
well into
exactly.
consideration. That's the only problem. So we have always this constitution in place, which can be enforced at any point of time. But for that, there should be a very strong political willpower for executing all those things. And that's what we are lacking today. And well, that is being, it is under the observation of many of these activists and all other people around. And we hope that there will be a pretty good change in the coming future.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all about the secularism in India. Right now, it is in the ICU, the intensive care.
Yeah. It's on life support.
Life support. Yeah. So
Well, cool. Thank you for having me on. I apologize for interrupting you because of like my bad internet. Hopefully,
yeah, it's okay.
your
It's
image
okay.
of me wasn't complete like 8-bit Susanna.
Yeah, that was not a big issue, but still, we had at least this stream of audio that is not interrupted. That's more important.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
yeah, so I think we'll have more of this kind of conversation in the future as well. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining with our audience today. And we'll be seeing you again.
Wait, can I ask you one more thing?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so if this is just me like extending you something.
Okay.
So if there is like ex-Muslim issues at all that you want covered, like please contact me.
Sure.
Like because I want so much more people to be focusing on the like explosion of ex-Muslims coming out of India right now. Like I'm so excited about it and I want there to be more attention. And so when there are stories that you think need coverage, please come talk to me because a lot of times there's a language barrier, right?
Sure.
And so it's hard for me to get accurate information, but I want to show the world what you guys are doing. So if there's a big story, like come talk to me and we'll highlight it on the show. Like we talked about what happened to Anish, we talked about what happened to Ashkar Ali, like all these kinds of things. But when those events happened, it was hard to find stuff in English so we can communicate that to people. So actually this goes to the audience as well. If there are issues that are affecting you and your community, you can come talk to us at Atheist Republic.
Right now, one issue which I would like to bring into your notice is that about Abdul Qadir Pudiyangadi. I think you might be knowing about him. He is in Dubai jail just because of these allegations over this blasphemy. So we have been trying to bring him out through this diplomatic channel and all such ministerial interventions. But still it is not completely successful. So if in case you could do something for him as an online activism point of view, that will be much more useful, because I think it's high time that we do something in that aspect, because we need to look into that. I think after the session we'll talk more about that, and we'll do something
Sure.
as an international platform, because he needs our help. Okay, so that's the most important subject which is under our consideration right now. So we'll talk more about it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So thanks for joining. So we'll be seeing again very soon in your channel. So that was a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, bye-bye.